Welcome back to the late day wrap up where we are going to spitfire this whole thing out, focus on Dixie, focusing on traditional markets, obviously Bitcoin follow up, and maybe even Ethereum as well. So with that said, I'd like to wish you the best, and let's start with good old Dixie. And of course, if you want the full on information, definitely check out the video from this morning's stream, as that is going to have much more in-depth information. Anyways, with that said, Dixie, what do we see? Still hanging on the same region that we've been looking at for the last about month and a half now, between 91 bucks and 89 3/4, of which I would be looking for still this range to take its time. Essentially, if we are going to be looking at a macro low here, I'd essentially be looking at a 3-month long-ish process, as we have seen in the past, from 2018 over here in March, from the major lows in July in 2011, from the major lows in April 08, of course the major lows, macro lows I should say, in January 05, and of course 95 and 90 as well. So all of that does imply that if we are going to be looking at a bit of a macro pivot right here, then we would expect this to take another about 2 months or so, as we have spent about 6 weeks already. So with that in mind, I'm just looking for this to kind of tire itself out within the range. Seeing as we just tested the top side of the range, I would be probably looking for another test to the bottom side of the range. And with that said, as long as this thing is ranging, not necessarily breaking above 91 bucks or not breaking below 89 3/4, I don't really have anything to correlate that with traditional markets or anything that trades opposite of Dixie, of course. Anyways, with that in mind, let's go into the other list over here. Start off with Nasdaq, and what do we see on a Nasdaq? Still holding the range as well, actually, from this morning's video. I was looking at this as a potential breakdown here, but I need to see an actual closure on the daily below the 21 exponential average at the very fucking least. Then I can target a move back down towards about 12.6, maybe even 12.5 overall. Looking at the weekly right now, seeing as we are coming into the weekly closure, I think that this one's a little bit less obvious, unless if you want to be bullish, obviously, because this one is still, well, more or less fine. But if we look at SPY over here, there are several issues that I would look for as kind of precipitous into NASDAQ if these do happen. And it's one, first and foremost, it'd be the daily, or sorry, not daily, but the weekly, which does close today, closing below the last week open, which is about 3750-ish region. Would confirm this as a bearish engulfing dildo, and also would confirm this as 1, 2, 3, 4 stabs of bearish divergence and getting kicked out of the bullish control zone. And next target would be to the downside, about 3,600 bucks. So I do want to see that closure. If that does happen, I will be semi-bearish coming into the stock market into Monday, that is. Anyways, moving on to, I think someone wanted to look at euro dollar here. Actually, I haven't looked at this one in a little bit of time, but probably bouncing back up. So what does that imply? Dixie, a little bit of short-term weakness. I'd probably be looking for this one to pop back up next week to about 122, a little bit above there, and come back to it after that. Moving on to gold. Yeah, where's my gold at? Gold's actually going to still have a chance here. It did have a chance early this morning, as you can see, but giving up a lot of that rally. I still want to see a weekly closure above the 21 exponential average, and then I'd be confident calling a target towards 1950, maybe even beyond there. But for right now, it is under a bit of pressure, and this weekly closure is not really giving us too much at its current price action. If it does close below the 10 simple at 1850, it doesn't really do too much for me to the downside, but would essentially start to look like this as likely to come back down and retest the prior lows from what we saw in November. So it's still kind of, within its confines, still consolidating. And I'll still be looking at this as kind of a trigger as to whether the foot should be on the gas pedal coming into next week or not. Anyways, moving on to Bitcoin. Where's my Bitcoin shitcoin? Where are you, little shit fuck? I hate you more than Ishin, you bastard of a boss, you. And here we go, Bitcoin over here. So I want to follow up on this morning's video, which we did identify on this morning's video that there was hidden bearish divergence on the lower term timeframes playing out, I believe up to like a 2 and 3 hour right here, which did play out. That our target was met from the 3,400 region right, or sorry, not 3,400, but 34,000 reach right here, all the way down just below 32,000 bucks, as we said. Just, or what's the fucking meme in this market right now? Exactly as predicted. But remember, the bias from yesterday's closure on the daily was back above this consolidation range right here, also back above the 21 exponential average, which did set into the bias for the greater picture as a bear trap in progress. So that was a buy. And for full disclosure, yes, I actually did take the trade in that regard above 33.5, and now we do see that the daily is taken over as daily momentum oscillators are pointed up and northwards, very erect right here, and will stay erect as long as we're above 31,688. We can see that daily RSI also popping back up above the exponential as well, and this is quite literally a bullish reset, maybe even some hidden bullish divergence off this if we look at CMEs, which is, yes, we do have hidden bullish divergence, and this was the key that I should have been looking at yesterday, or sorry, day and a half ago, that would have very obviously denoted the prior day as, or sorry, I should say the 27th of January as a trap, and now off to the races. So I want to kind of focus down on something that's very important right here, actually focusing on CME specifically, and that is the volume signature. This volume signature is very, 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 very powerful right here, as we do see that it is about the same as what we have seen on the major extremes for this rally, both to the upside and kind of leading into our consolidation ranges. So this to me is a change of behavior, and I would be looking at now 35. Which level is this exactly? About 34,500 as the pivot now for essentially denoting a bull trap. Now, of course, that is about a $3,000 delta between where we are right now and in that area. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. And of course, Bit Mexico over here really showing the power of the volume. I think GDAX about the same as well, a little bit less in comparison. Bitstamp, very, very impressive as well. And Finex, same thing here too. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are talking about the China pump all the way back on over here. And there is something to that. But here's the thing. This was a bit of a different market dynamic that the whole market was in. We had actually already denoted a downtrend by breaking below that $10,000 region right here. So it's kind of a different era in comparison to what we're looking at right now, where Bitcoin has been more or less holding the uptrend. This looks obviously very different on a weekly than what we saw back and over here. So my first and foremost thoughts on this would be further continuation to the upside. Can we target up to 40,000 and beyond? Probably yes, but is there going to be a short-term pullback maybe over the weekend? Well, probably yes as well, but more importantly, I am, more or less bullish on price action. Our $37,500 target was hit from this morning's video, assuming that the conditions were met, which they were, and now I look at 34,500 as the pivot to the downside, and I will be happy to switch around to once again bearish below there, or at least another move back down to $30,000 base. But for now, things look more or less fine leading into next week. But weekend time is usually fuck around time, so I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I want to see it in real time. Obviously, looking at the 12-hour right here, do we see anything of interest? Yeah, 12-hour Stokes pointed back up north as well, as long as we're above the 32,400. And then let's check out the 2-day. So this one's very interesting. It's obviously not closing tonight. It's going to be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But if we do close above 37,850, which Bitcoin's kind of hovering around right now, then that will cross back up and reject, we'll essentially get back into the bullish control zone. And then 3 days, same thing as well, actually, with any sort of a closure above 37,000 bucks. So building below it and holding the bullish control zone. So all of that would look really good. That's obviously going to be confirmed tomorrow night. So I don't really have anything to say other than that. But if those conditions are met, I'd essentially be looking for a retest coming into next week of the prior all-time high and probably beyond. I mean, this market's kind of in a bit of a euphoric state once again. And, at that time, we'll probably see the O faces bringing back 50,000, 60,000, or fuck that. That's too bearish. Let's talk about 200 billion thousand. So with that said, I think I'm going to cut it off right there. I want to wish you the best, and the happiest. Actually, before I go, is there anything else? Yeah, if it does want to pull back, I mean, pulling back down to 35,000 bucks is certainly not out of the question here. Anyways, with that said, I want to wish you the best. Take care, and until next time.